Gimmick is a very wonderful thing, doesn't it? Like, it's what makes certain decks or any TCG in general unique, because if the gimmick is fun, the people will enjoy it. But gimmick is also a double-edged sword, because if you have a good and fun gimmick, you will have a lot of fun time. But at the same time, if the gimmick has some imbalance in certain ways, it tends to frustrate you more so than you actually enjoying it. And it is safe to say Astroea is the latter.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
The mechanic was so frustratingly annoying to actually achieve, despite it is very consistent once you hit it. So I did not expect Astroea to get a brand new form this soon. Does the new form of Astroea actually better? Does taking off a mask actually fix the issue that this deck has? Well, that is exactly what I'm gonna be talking about today. Before we talk about a brand new card, yes, there's only one I want to talk about today. Let's look back and see why Astroea has a problem to begin with. So if you look back into the original version of Astroea Unica, you can clearly see the deck revolves around putting triggers into soul and gain benefit by either binding the triggers or soul blasting it, with the heavy focus on critical. Unica takes those advantages very well because she gains additional skill based on how many critical you have in the bind zone. In all fairness, the mechanic was very interesting. Not that many decks actually interact with the triggers, and in all fairness, this is a reason why I enjoy playing Dark Stage, because they tend to be very experimental with many of the mechanics they actually implement. But I feel Astroea mechanic went a little bit too far. Critical triggers are essentially one of the most common triggers we have in the game, and making your power and skill inversely proportional to the number of critical you have in your deck is a little bit dumb in my opinion, and it shows because Unica saw no competitive play until very recently in 2024. And to make things worse, Unica was also a victim of Bushi bullying her, despite getting a support within one booster, because it is masked, as she did get her evolved form, Biko Mask, and it wasn't very good, like, let's be real here. The card does give you main phase retire, which is actually not bad, but overall turning the consistency into just a restand with additional power is not really good on launch. But fortunately enough, over time, support was released to play around not just Biko Mask but also improve the consistency of the deck itself, with cards like Griffon for the deck manipulation, Astroea Horn for increasing the pressure by getting its own crit, and the most important card, Bifron. Bifron not only is easily one of the strongest archetype-based generics we have for Dark State to date, but also she had a very powerful skill for her own deck, as she allows you to search for any card that has an Astroea in its name or critical, which allow you to fulfill the cost for Biko Mask removal skill as well as the Soul Blast skill. But it is not enough. The number is just too small, and the amount of time you have to set up is a little bit too slow. So what does our brand new form of Astroea, Dual Majesta Astroea Bigos, actually does for the deck? This unit has two skills, where at the beginning of your main phase, if you did not write this turn, you may discard a card from your hand, choose a card with the same card name as this unit from your bind zone, write it as stand, and if you wrote a card, activate Persona, right? And then when this unit attack a Vanguard, counterblast 1, Soul Blast 3, bind all criticals and cards with Astroea in its name that was Soul Blast for this cost, and perform the following according to the total number of critical and cards with Astroea in their card name in your bind zone. If you have one or more, choose one of your opponent's rare card and retire it, and your front row get 5k until end of turn. If you have 3 or more, this unit get critical and drive +1 until end of that battle. And if you have 5 or more, choose one of your rare card and stand it.
It's amazing!
I think the word dual in this card should say everything for you. This is both the representation of Unica and Biko Mask in a single card, as you literally have the original kit of Astroea in the first two parts of the skill, with retire one rare card, giving additional power, and gain critical and a drive. But they also decided to go with Providence Barrow Magnets route, where they decided to increase the requirement of the skill, allowing you to add more skill in general. At a glance, it might seem a bad thing. I made a whole video shitting on Providence Barrow Magnets to begin with, but I have to say this worked in this time, and that's because of the fact that it doesn't just increase the cost requirement, but it also increased what is considered for the skill, and that is the fact that you can bind Astroea units and count Astroea unit for Stellar skill. This changes everything because this means that you can focus on putting Astroea unit into soul first with Bifrost skill, allowing you to still have a very compressed version of your deck while still having a lot of critical insight. Overall, I do think this is a really good update and a very good reference to both of the form of Astroea, but it is far from perfect. For one, I do feel this card cost is a little bit unnecessary, especially the deck don't really draw as strongly as you think it is, despite having cards like Bifrost. Same goes for the Counterblast, by the way. Secondly, having an increased condition also means that Bushiroad actually still delegate Astroea to be a going second deck because of the fact that it is possible to actually hit full condition by turn 3 going second thanks to cards like Spada. But the problem is that the number is just not that incredible. Having a pseudo persona right sounds good at a glance. The thing is that as the time goes into the later part of the game, it struggles a little bit. I can see where they're going with this because they're trying to limit certain combo from being too broken, namely Steya Horn with additional crits. But let's be real here, are you really willing to sacrifice half of your critical trigger just to get this combo out? I don't think so. I don't think it's worth it. And here comes the big question. Does Stella works with Unica or Mars? Because you technically can just bind Unica and Mars to actually consider it as a cost of the skill. And the answer to that question is yes, you technically can do it, but I wouldn't recommend it. The reason behind that is because for one, that means that you're running more bricks in your deck, and for two, Baiko Mars and Baiko Stella doesn't really synergize that well with one another, where yes, you can just jump into Mars and right back to Stella, but are you willing to sacrifice one of your personal turn so that you have a better push on turn 3?
No. No!
I haven't seen a case where playing Baiko Mars in Stella is actually beneficial. Especially if you're running Stella, you are freeing a lot of deck space that you used to run Mars Engine, allowing you to run more powerful cards like Twin Marvel Dragon, Iridia, which is the brand new support that the deck received, or even the Doggo, Lugaon. Archer 3 Chimera to actually has a better defense whilst also allowing you to cycle through critical or Astroea in your hand for one draw. Overall, I do think Baiko Stella definitely breathed a proper life into Astroea. I just don't get it why it took them bloody 2 years to actually complete that cycle. But what do you guys think? Do leave down in the comments below on what you think about Astroea. That's all I have for today. Take care of yourself, don't forget to click that sub and become a member for some cool perks. And this is Mac Megane signing out.